All right, everybody, our favorite time of the week again. We're going to get to answer a few of your questions. Saagar, what is up first?
Numero uno. I like this question. Honeymoon travel recommendation. My fiance and I are planning our honeymoon for next fall, winter. Thinking somewhere warm, relaxing, and by the ocean. Congratulations, Mark. Any recommendations, Saagar, since you're so well-traveled, are there less well-known locations around the world that you would recommend? Europe, perhaps.
I don't know, Saagar. I don't know if you're welcome in Europe anymore.
I probably am not. Well, that's completely fine with me. I could go my whole life, never set foot on the continent again. I would genuinely be
beautiful continent.
Sure, it's beautiful. There's a lot of nice places.
You love to travel.
I would be sad. I would be sad. It's true. I want to go back. It's true. I don't know. What do you think? In terms of beaches, so what did he say? Warm. Well, for me, Thailand. Thailand's got the coolest beaches, but it's very far, and I understand that some people don't want to go that far. I think the food there is absolutely incredible. Let's see, some other beaches. Bali, I've heard, is incredible, like Indonesia, that area. I don't think people go enough just because the flight is so long, but from a beach perspective, also affordability, I think it's way cheaper in order to have a really good time over there. South America, don't sleep on South America.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, I've
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, I
amazing.
love Costa Rica. Also, I mean, that's even basic. You can go to like Cartagena, Colombia, especially. There's a town I went to called Santa Marta, which is literally right on the equator. It's like year-round, the best weather. Like the ocean temperature, all of that. Anyway, check those out. Don't sleep on South America. Don't sleep on Asia. I think there's some great beaches and stuff down there, and it's a lot cheaper in general than going to Europe.
Yeah, that's good advice. I haven't been to many like international beaches, to be honest with. I'm
not usually a beach guy. I mean, eventually I'll usually spend like 1 or 2 days, and then the rest like doing something else.
But probably my favorite. I have been to Rio. Rio is amazing.
Oh, I've never been there. Yeah, I would love to go there.
But I think I liked the Costa Rica vibe. I mean, where I went in Costa Rica was more like natural and jungle, and that was
you can do both.
Really beautiful.
That's what's cool.
Yeah. So I like that one. We'll go with that one.
Okay.
Next question from Quinn Murphy. This is an interesting one. Mastriano Fetterman voters. Hello, Krystal and Saagar. Big fan since the Rising Days. Thank you. I'm a current PA resident. And as we get into election season, I find myself thinking about the possibility of some voters backing Mastriano in the gubernatorial race and Fetterman for Senate. Now, I understand the two candidates are diametrically opposed on both Stop the Steal and reproductive rights, but I see this kind of voter existing wholly as a rejection of the elite effect that both Josh Shapiro and Dr. Oz offer. Do either of you think this kind of voter exists? What does their existence or lack thereof say about voters rejecting the elites at the ballot box? And what does it say about voters' attitude toward policy? Thank you.
It's a great question.
It is a good question because if you trust the polling at this point, there are
they definitely exist.
Definitely some people who are backing Fetterman and backing Mastriano, which, if you're voting based on policy, that makes zero sense. They are diametrically opposed, but I do think voters a lot of time vote on kind of vibes. Like, do I feel like this person gets me? Do I feel like they respect me? Do I feel like they understand me? Do I feel like they're gonna fight for me? Versus like, what are your actual policy positions? So I don't know. I buy your theory. You're there in Pennsylvania. You probably have a better sense for it than I do, but I do think, particularly with Dr. Oz, because he's such a well-known figure, it's pretty clear there is a real distaste for the idea that this Hollywood millionaire came in and thought that he could swoop in and won this seat.
His Republican negatives are so bad. It's part of the reason why his negatives in general are really bad. And on top of that, Fetterman in particular has very high favorability amongst Republicans. So it's like a diametric oppose. I definitely think there is a Mastriano-Fetterman voter. 100%. I think you're right. Your analysis is spot on. In terms of what people say about policy, well, I think we've all learned at this point that a lot of people don't vote on policy at all. So it wouldn't surprise me at all that it exists whatsoever. And, come election day, I'm almost certain that this will play out as you expect. I'm not sure if Fetterman's going to win necessarily, but I do think it's going to be a lot tighter, and that by definition would show you there is crossover voting. Yeah,
well, and by the way, I blame the media for a lot of why people don't often vote on policy, because how much does the media present candidates as like policy choices? It's all so much of political coverage is this sort of like celebrity fandom culture versus any real discussion of the issues that are going to impact you. So we shouldn't be surprised that voters are processing the election in that way.
Definitely. All
right, third one.
Okay, what do we got here? Patrick Morin, filibuster-free Senate. If the Democrats nuke the filibuster to codify abortion rights, how do you expect Republicans to react in response the next time they hold majorities in the House, Senate, and the Oval Office? What would a filibuster-less Senate look like, Krystal?
Listen, I'm in favor of if you win elections, you're able to implement your agenda. We take for granted now, it's just an assumption that you're going to have a supermajority in order to get anything through the Senate. But that is a truly modern phenomenon. I mean, that really comes about in the 2000s. Even back in the 90s, the filibuster was only used in these very rare instances. So this is an extraordinary set of circumstances requiring a supermajority to get absolutely anything accomplished. I think if you win and you have the seats and you have the majority, you should be able to enact your agenda, and then the public gets to evaluate, how did this go? And if they didn't like it, then they toss you out and they try something different. So it doesn't freak me out, this idea that like, oh my God, then the Republicans will be able to pass things as well. I'm of course not going to like what they get through, but the truth of the matter is they're way more willing to use hardball tactics than the Democrats have proven to as well. So, I mean, it's not like the filibuster has been as much of an impediment for them as it has been for the Democrats, who try to find every way possible to do nothing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think I appreciate the honesty, because a lot of people who hold that position will be honest about the fact that it could lead to a lot of outcomes which they don't like. I don't know, I'm torn, because sometimes I just think that the switching back and forth on it would be it'd just be so bad for I mean, imagine if we had national ban on abortion and a right to abortion all codified within like 4 years. I'd be like, I don't know if we could live through that. But at the same time, I mean, look, that is also what it means to live in a functioning country, you know? So I guess I get it.
I think a big part of the problem right now is just our inability to respond to anything. And so, I understand that, the founders designed it to be difficult, but they did not design it to be just totally dysfunctional and unworkable. And that's effectively where we are now. So that's my thought.
Okay, next question.
All right, next question from Taylor Alfonso on Brittney Griner. Why hasn't the Biden administration done anything to get Brittney Griner home? Is the mainstream media even covering her detainment? So I confess, I only really started to dig into this story in the past several days. My understanding is that, like a lot of, basically political hostages in Russia and around the world, initially the family really wanted to kind of keep the story a little bit low key.
Yes.
Because the minute that you make this a flashpoint and the subject of a lot of media attention, well then, guess what? The country that is holding this political hostage knows that they have a lot of leverage, because this is becoming a big political problem for you. So the family initially didn't say a lot. Now that has shifted, and now obviously Brittney Griner's wife in particular has been out and very vocal about what the hell is going on and why aren't you doing more to bring her home. I think it's a legitimate question. I mean, Brittney's coach of the WNBA had a quote that was basically like, we all know if this was LeBron James who was being held, we would do whatever it takes to get this individual home. On the other hand, there are other hostages being held in Russia and other places that aren't getting even the level of publicity that Brittney Griner is getting. So I think the bottom line here is that, this is a horrific consequence of our, completely dismal relationship with Russia, where we aren't even in contact, aren't even having any level of discussion with them to be able to negotiate Brittney's return. And what she's accused of, even if it's true, is such a minor, ridiculous offense even.
I agree. I'm going to be honest, and this is going to be probably an unpopular opinion. I think there's like a weird moral panic going on with this. I mean, we have other people that are being held in Russia. And Paul Whelan's family, this U.S. Marine who's being detained there, also basically without recourse. His family's like, hey, we're not getting any attention. I think the solution is simple. It's not just about Brittney. It's not just about him. It's like, let's have some diplomatic contact and get them the hell out of there. Also, I want to reiterate your point, which is that just yesterday, Russia came out and said, quote, U.S. hype around Brittney Griner is not helping her case. This is exactly what happened during the Iranian hostage crisis, which is that by making it into a big thing, by Jimmy Carter tying his political fortune to it, the Iranians were like, we're never giving these people up, because we can get anything that we possibly want, and we're going to stay on the front page of every newspaper in the country. So
apparently there's some Russian arms dealer.
Yes, yeah, he's the one who paid for her to come over there, right?
No, we're holding, and Russia wants that person back, who was convicted of actual, international arms trafficking and terrorists, and it's like a real thing he did versus Brittney Griner that had some vape cartridges with hashish oil. Allegedly, we don't even know that that's actually even true. So the Biden administration's position is like, we can't give you we can't act like these two things are equivalent.
Right.
But in the same respect, I mean, if you're the family, you're like, do whatever the fuck it takes to get this person individual home. So, you know, it's better when we have good relations with countries around the world because then we can work these things down.
That's my takeaway. I don't think this shows in America's a racist country or whatever. I'm just like, listen, you know, like, you're in Russia, you're an American, you could have problems, you know, we got a lot of people over there. Let's try and fix it. I think it's abhorrent that she's being held. It's a total bullshit charge. Yeah. She should be released. But you know, Russia's an evil country. Like, I don't know what to tell you. All right, final one. Daniel Barber, Breaking Points Demographics. Hi, Krystal and Saagar. I followed you both since 2019 when election season was ramping up. No one could explain Bernie's success in a way that made remote sense. I stumbled across a segment on Rising through Reddit. You said not only you could explain it, but you had predicted it, written a book about it. After I picked up a job on the floor, I was hooked. Wow, what a nice guy. My question comes from a comment Krystal made recently. She mentioned your audience is predominantly male. How well have you come to understand the demographics? Do you have a guess as to why they are what they are? Does it inform the content that you create? It doesn't inform the content? No, that's the answer. On the demographics, look, guys, it's weird. I'm gonna be honest. We talked with YouTube a little bit about it, and apparently, not just us, in general, and again, I'm talking very general, politics YouTube is a super male space. I don't get it. I never will get it. The best that I have heard is of a channel that has 80-20. In terms of their demographics. That's supposed to be inside of YouTube. That's like the success story for getting, look, I don't know. Maybe obviously women consume the news. I don't know how they consume it. I'm gonna assume maybe more like establishment mind. Maybe they're more on Instagram, you know, TikTok. Again, I'm not even gonna pretend to understand it. I just know that apparently that's the state of the market. Yeah. I would love for it to change. I personally, and actually I will say, amongst the premium subs, it is not even close to whatever it is on the YouTube channel. Yeah. Like it's not near the 90-10 figure or whatever. The premium subs, it's much more divided. In terms of the general YouTube / podcast audience, I don't know why a lot of men like it. But apparently they do.
We get demographic data from YouTube, so we can see that pretty clearly. So we know, you know, the age ranges and all of that. I mean, it's, you know, definitely a much younger audience than cable news and those sorts of things. But we, on the podcast platforms, we have no idea.
Yeah, that's true.
Total black box in terms of.
We only know where they live. That's basically it.
Yeah, and so they're no clue.
Since millions of people, we have no idea what it is.
Yeah, and since we've transitioned to, you know, from Rising to Breaking Points, we have leaned more into the podcast side so that now, you know, it's pretty balanced between the number of people consuming on YouTube versus the number of people who are listening to it in an audio format. So I wonder if the demographics are the same or different there. I really genuinely don't know, but it does seem like for whatever reason, you know what I think my guess is? A lot of political YouTube kind of came out of gaming, the gaming world, which is, you know, overwhelmingly male. True. And there isn't the same sort of pipeline from a female-dominated space into political YouTube. There isn't like a pipeline from, now I'm gonna be super stereotypical, but from like makeup tutorials into political YouTube. There isn't like any sort of pipeline like that. So that's kind of always been my guess as why YouTube in particular is this very male dominant.
So I asked, and I was like, so what do women watch on YouTube? And they were like, yeah, basically like makeup tutorials. And I was like, huh, well, okay, that's interesting. And you're right, which is that, look, teenage boys, you know, for over 15 years now have a direct pipeline into YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, Gamergate.
From gaming, and then Gamergate itself became political. There hasn't, I mean, I guess the whole James Charles thing that happened is the only thing that's ever been quasi-political or whatever that happened in the makeup world, but even that doesn't really touch anything that we talk about here at all. So I think you're right. I think there's just no existing, and look, I just think that people consume shit differently. Like I don't know why. I think in general, from again what I've seen, I think men spend more time on YouTube actually than women. So again, it could even be a bias in terms of platform use and of getting and consuming information in a different way on the internet. Again, I don't know. I can only speculate.
Yeah, I mean, you do think about. It wouldn't just be specific to YouTube. All of these social media platforms have, like Instagram is more female.
Yeah, you know, my Instagram audience, I think yours too probably, last time I checked our analytics, is way more female than our YouTube audience.
Yeah, TikTok is probably more female.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Facebook, I'm guessing more female, but I don't know. Twitter, I'm thinking is more 50-50, maybe a little more male.
I've never checked.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be unusual for a platform to have a real sort of gender imbalance, and YouTube may have one overall, but I don't know. But it definitely has one in the political world.
Yeah, very true. Who knows?
All right. We love you guys. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you back here tomorrow.